Ontario Mutuals, sometimes referred to as the Farm Mutuals, provide home, auto, commercial, and farm insurance to communities across the province, and have for generations. We live and work here, and we know the special demands of your business. We even have dedicated loss prevention experts on hand to help you make the safest choices on your property. In this video, we'll share some common areas of risk on a property and provide tips on how to mitigate them. Coming up, you'll learn about fuel theft on the farm, polyurethane foam insulation, sump pump failure, and temporary space heaters. Fuel theft on the farm. Fuel theft of both diesel and gasoline is a very common type of theft on a farm, but it is easily preventable. Remember that as the price of fuel rises, so does the increase in theft. Theft of gasoline and diesel fuel is relatively easy for a criminal who has knowledge of farming operations. Unfortunately, today's gas thief is not a person with a rubber hose and a gas can. Criminals now use tanker trucks to steal thousands of liters of gas or diesel worth thousands of dollars. What can be done? Fuel storage areas and pumps need to be locked when not in use. Padlocks requiring a key are the best. The fuel tank shutoff valve or the nozzle and hose should also be locked. For electric gas or diesel pumps, the control switch should be in a locked building and only turned on when needed. Tanks should be visible from a house or office and should not be located close to the road. Tanks should not be installed behind buildings, since this provides concealment for thieves. On large or remote properties, tanks should be kept locked when not in use, and only filled in the season they are needed. Increase your security by installing video cameras and security lighting around tanks. Fence the area around fuel tanks if possible, and ensure gates are locked when not in use. Also, record fuel deliveries and overall usage to determine if there is an unexplained loss of fuel. Polyurethane foam insulation. Polyurethane foam insulation, known as PUFI, or foamed plastic insulation, is a common insulation material found in houses, as well as commercial and agricultural buildings. It can be sprayed in place, become rigid when cured, or installed as a rigid foam insulation sheathing. Rigid polyurethane sprayed-in-place foams and rigid sheathing foams will, when ignited, burn rapidly and produce intense heat, dense smoke, and gases which are irritating, flammable, or toxic. One of the major safety precautions to be taken around organic foams is to prohibit sources of ignition, such as open flames, cutting and welding torches, high-intensity heat sources, and smoking. What can be done? The National Building Code of Canada, or MBCC, specifies that PUFI or foam plastic insulation must be protected by a thermal barrier in combustible construction other than in concealed spaces, for example, attic or roof spaces, or crawl spaces. Since they are expensive, foam installers may leave it to the homeowner or business operator to install the required thermal barrier. Acceptable thermal barriers include plaster, gypsum board, plywood, hardboard, insulating fiberboard, particle board, oriented strand board or OSB, wafer board, or an intumescent coating. Remember that an insurer has the right to refuse to insure properties with exposed foam insulation or where there are thermal barriers that do not comply with underwriting requirements if the insurer deems there to be a property or life safety concern. Sump pump failure. Due to climate change, flooding is expected to become more of an issue for Canadian homeowners. Flood model data from the Insurance Bureau of Canada estimates that 10% of Canadian homes are at high risk of flooding. Sump pump failure can be a contributing factor of basement flooding. When sump pumps fail, water that was supposed to be pumped outside from the sump pit overflows. Basement floods can ruin personal belongings, furniture, appliances, and may also lead to structural problems. The water that has escaped into the building needs to be removed as soon as possible. To reduce the risk of mold contamination, a professional restoration company should be employed to help with the cleanup and drying process. What can be done? One of the best ways to reduce the risk of water damage is to have a battery-powered sump pump installed as a backup to the primary sump pump. A battery backup system should be sized for the conditions. Pumps are rated in the horsepower of the electric motor and gallons pumped per minute of water flow. The height the pump must lift the water has to be considered when selecting a pump. If the pump water lifting capacity is below the required height, the water removal rate will be reduced, which could lead to flooding. Maintenance of the system is also critical. Homeowners must ensure the battery is fully charged and the pump is not seized. Periodic operation and maintenance of the backup system will provide them with peace of mind. However, it is recommended that you address the root cause if flooding is a persistent issue. Electric space heaters. Electric space heaters are an effective method of providing temporary heat. While these devices are convenient, they are intended for short-term use only and should never be permanently installed. Space heaters keep areas warm, but if used improperly or installed in high-risk areas, they pose a fire hazard. Not only is the heat they generate a risk, but the large electrical current drawn by these devices can cause the internal components to overheat. What can be done? If not approved for permanent installation, heaters should only be used temporarily under supervised conditions. All heaters used in Canada must be approved by an accredited certification organization, such as CSA, the Canadian Standards Association, UL, Underwriters Laboratories, ULC, Underwriters Laboratories Canada, or WH, Warnock-Hersey. Temporary heaters should not be hung from rafters, electrical wires, or hooks. In most cases, they are designed to be used on non-combustible floors. Keep combustible materials a safe distance away. Clearance requirements will be found on the heater or in the owner's manual. If in doubt, follow the 3-foot rule, meaning the front of the unit must be 3 feet from the nearest combustible material. Do not alter the heater's power cord and make sure the cord is not frayed or damaged before using the heater. Also, never operate a heater using an extension cord or an electrical power bar. Thank you for listening to our presentation on some common property risks. Ontario Mutuals are companies devoted to the safety of our policyholders and the protection of property. Our dedicated loss prevention staff are experts in their field and take pride in helping people maintain safe spaces. Special thanks to our reinsurer for providing this technical content and expertise. Find your local mutual at www.ontariomutuals.ca.